Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conexão Metabooks. Hello, Caroline. Welcome.
Hello, Ricardo. Thank you.
Little explanation em português. Para aqueles que estão nos assistindo pela primeira vez, a live é feita em inglês e dentro de cerca de uma semana nós disponibilizaremos a versão com legendas. Se você quiser fazer perguntas, coloca aí no nosso chat do Facebook e a gente vai acompanhando e passando assim que for possível. So let's start our conversation. Caroline is vice president and publisher at Group Québec Amérique with different imprints, coffee shops, and the leading French language distributor in Canada, Diffusion de Media. I'm not going to say much more about her. I'm going to ask Caroline to tell us a little bit about herself, her participation, what she does in the publishing market. I know she don't just run a publishing group. She has more rules. So welcome, Caroline. Tell us a little bit about you, please.
Thank you, Ricardo. Hello. I'm happy to be here today. Very happy. Virtual meetings now. You know, we used to meet in front of a drink somewhere in Frankfurt or London, but now it's through the web. Well, it's always very difficult to talk by ourselves, but I was born into publishing. My dad founded the publishing house that I now lead. Very small, started very with only one book, and I built quite a fantastic group now. We have two publishing house, one that publishes 80 new books a year, which is from novels to children book, picture book, and we also have a division that does packaging with language dictionaries. And the other publishing house is Cardinal, that mainly do coffee table books, a lot of cookbooks. I have started to work in publishing to be able to pay the rent and not knowing if I was going to stay there. But I managed to do every single job in the publishing house. And one day I just realized I was leading it. I never really draw a path for me, but it's now a passion. And I've been working in the house for more than 30 years now. And I feel like a publishing house also is like a family. So it's a quite nice size. We are about 35 employees, so it's like a family. I have now leading a distribution house as well, which is representing 200 different publishers, from French language publishers, some from France, and many, mostly 60 French language publishers from everywhere around Canada. So that's another model. That's another part of the business that is very important. It's the sales business. It's getting the books out to the bookstores, and through the years we've bought a building for our publishing house, and it was very nice, right overlooking a great street in Montreal. So we opened a literary cafe where we will welcome people and do a lot of events. And I speak in the past because now it's all closed because of the COVID, but we put a lot of effort into doing animating the book and all that. It is a great part of publishing, is the meeting part of it, and be able to talk about what we read and our passions. 10 years ago, I started 8 or 9 years ago, I started a little project while I was the president of Leave Canada Books, which is the association that manages the export of books for Canada. So they manage some of the collective stands of Canada in Bologna, Frankfurt, and everywhere. I started this little project where Canada could be guest of honor at the Frankfurt Book Fair. And that brought me into quite a journey where, as a French publisher in Canada, I realized that I didn't know much about my country, and I didn't know much about how my market, the book industry was all shaped. So I've learned a lot, and it's very diverse. The Canadian book market is unbelievably vast, and I don't want to say diverse. It's more than diverse. It's complicated, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You go in British Columbia, and people are reading totally different things that people in the Maritimes are reading. It's fantastic in a way. It's it's an array of perspective and of different kind of books that are published everywhere around Canada. So I've learned through all those experiences about publishing, and I'm still learning today. I think that's what is so good about being a publisher. We every year is a different thing. These are different books that we are publishing, so that's the fantastic part of it, I would say. So
yeah, you're right, exactly. And as you had so many different experience in the book publishing, before talking about the market, just one more question about yourself. How do you feel, or can you share with us a little bit about your experience as a woman in a market mainly headed by men, or didn't you have any issues in that area? Or what can you tell us about it?
I could tell you many stories, but I think many experience. I would say one thing. I did get involved into the Publish Hers. That's a new association that is fantastic, trying to reach out to women, to help women helping other women getting into this industry, and learning how to make a space for themselves, and facing all the challenges a woman can have as a business worker. But the thing is, being in Canada, I am very, very privileged, and being in French Canada also, because it's our market. I think English Canada and French Canada is the same in that matter. A woman has a lot of space to take some roles. There's a lot of women that leaves publishing house in Canada, so it's not as challenging as it would be for any other woman in other market I've seen. And I don't want to be specific, but I've seen, going to Frankfurt, you meet a lot of publishers, and you can share a lot of stories. And I know that I'm very privileged. At the same time, the business part of the publishing is as hard as any other business, and you need to work really towards distancing yourself in front of any, like, the emotion that can be part of the business, that you have to distance yourself from it. And it's I think it's the challenge that women have to do, is to remain themselves and that's one thing that's hard for me, is to maintain who I am, and the core of who I am, because I'm a woman, and accept the fact that I'm not going to think like a man, and try to convey my vision this way. So and it's not that easy. It's not always that easy, and it's learning to be true to yourself. That's the most important thing.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Caroline. So let's talk a little bit more about the market. You said that the book market in Canada is very different, let's say. Can you try to explain the book market in Canada for us, please?
Well, I've done a lot of traveling around Canada, trying to learn from it and try to understand it and be able to convey, explain it. First and foremost, Canada is composed of 10 provinces, but there is 14 association of publishers. So it gives you quite a a view of the different interest that publishers would have, because if they all compile into two main ones, who are the French and English. And I would say, and also we must also acknowledge that we have indigenous and First Nation publishing also. That's smaller, but they're very important, and the voice they are very important. And French and English publishers do now publish a lot more indigenous voices. But that's another part of this very, diversified market and population that we have. And that's probably because there's as many publishers, there is published population that is interested in books. So there's two main markets, one French, one English. The English market is obviously much bigger, in very different, in a sense that from the French market, in a sense that it is governed a bit differently. Sadly, we share one thing though. We are in not sadly, but we are in the shadow of a bigger market. So the English Canadian market is in the shadow of the American market. It's trying, most of the publishers try to publish direct in the US as well, and they have those two markets to handle. And the French market, the French Canadian market, is in the shadow of France, where all the books from France also is, and we compete with the French publishers. And English Canadian owned publishing house do compete with the American publishers. So that's, in a sense, that's what joined us in terms of we share this challenge, but in terms of the two markets, they're completely different. They have a different system of distribution. They have a different group of booksellers and all that. In English Canada, there's only one big chain that is the bookselling chain, and the sales online is tremendously big compared to the French Canadian market, where there's a very diverse group of booksellers chain. There's small independent bookstores. There's a lot of them, and they do a lot for our market. And we don't sell as much book online than the English market. So in a sense, those things are very different. So we market our books in a different way. I can go into details, but it's mainly the only thing is there is the government is doing subsidizing translation. So, but there's not as much as I think we should do translation between the English and French to English. So, the books could navigate all around Canada. We should be better in that.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know why I had in my mind that there would be books from both languages on bookstores and more or less mixed, but no, it's very, very separated. I mean,
yeah, we do sell books around Canada. Like my publishing house, I sell book in BC, but it's very small quantities.
Mm-hmm.
The English publishers, they do have a couple of booksellers in Quebec that from the part of Canada that do sell English books, but it's very tiny. It's not as important. So
I see.
Separated.
So I see.
Yeah.
So the reason basically why we're having this live is because of this virus crisis, crazy, right? How is it going in Canada? How did that happen? Actually, to be honest, Canada is not much on the news.
No.
You are more discreet, let's say. So how is it going in your country?
Well, I would say it started very much like a big shock. I remember still planning to go to London Book Fair, and things seemed to be okay till the very end when, okay, I'm not going. And then that week became like the shock week where it was quite a shock to close everything. So I guess in a sense we were very much like the rest of the world, and we we shut down everything, and we confined, and everybody was, and now here everything closed, the bookstores, everything. So it was quite a shock, and it was, I would say, the past 3 months has been the biggest roller coaster ride I've had in my life, in terms of how low we went and now how high we are, because with the confining, and then so very much it was the time. French Canada, again, being different from the rest of Canada, we had the most cases. We actually, our curve followed the same in terms of Italy, in terms of
Oh,
yeah. So mainly because we had a week off school before the rest of Canada, and just at the wrong moment, a lot of people traveled around the world and came back when it was not the time. So we suffered more than the rest of Canada, but I guess as a country we all did the same kind of confinement, and each provinces, doing their own thing, but it ended up being quite strong. I would say, again, I'm lucky to live here, because as a business owner, after a month of very, very stressful, trying to manage the bookstores, the cafe, the publishing, the distribution, we've had a lot of help from the government of Canada and the local government as well. So it'll help all the publishers to reopen and maintain all their employees, so that the Canadian government offered quite a help to all the business. So it did give a bit of hair to us, and we did our best to maintain, and at the same time, when you look at, we all alone at home looking at our Facebook, but the whole world went through the same thing. So in a sense, it's quite touching to see that everybody had to live the same thing, and we helped each other in some ways. I would say that June has become, quite a positive outcome for the publishing industry. Bookstores has all reopened, retail, a little slowly, but online stores, online book selling went up a fair bit. And what we saw is a lot of Canadian readers are buying Canadian author books. They are buying local. That's in all terms of retail. Everybody is looking to buy local, which is, I think, in a sense, helping us. And we've had a very good month of June in book sales for my bookstores, and not the bookstore, but publishing house and the two publishing house and the distribution house as well, seen a very good month. So I'm hopeful, but remain very prudent.
of course.
We have no clue.
Of course.
For us.
Of course. So I see, as you said, the government, the authorities have been helpful during this time, right? And that's really fortunate from you. Someone on our chat has make a question, has raised a question. I think it's fair to ask. Because you were talking about you talked about authorities, about the government. Here in Brazil, publishers depend very much on government buyings. Do the government in Canada buys books as well? Not right now in the crisis, but in general, do the government buys lots of books, or
it's mostly schools
for schools?
True school.
Is this a big sale for publishers in there?
Well, that's the thing. School stopped, and that's what's hurt the most when all this. And they were right in the month when the pandemic started. It's right in the month of buying books. April, May. That's where the school do actually use their budget and buy. But as they reopened, they all were told to use their budget and buy the books. So that really we saw in June. It probably helped our number in June. We saw a lot of, but it's not as important probably as it is in your market, though.
Okay. Thank you. I think you answered her question. Okay, one more. I think this you can give us some light. I don't know how is the translation market in Canada. So the question here is basically, how would you be interested in Brazilian authors? I mean, the Canadian market is interested in Brazilian authors, but I would open a little bit more this question and ask you, how is the production of translation in Canada?
Well, like I explained, there's the privately Canadian home publishers. They do have to compete with the big chain, which are Penguin Random, Simon and Schuster for the English part, but Gallimard and Flammarion for the French. So I tried to tackle buying rights from international foreign authors, but I never succeed against Gallimard or those big chains in French. And it's the same, I'm pretty sure, with the English market. Funny enough, it's difficult. I've had interest in the past, but obviously when you start to buy international right, you go for the very renowned authors to start. And it's quite impossible because I compete with those really big names from France, and who will sell French right to a small market in North America. So that's my competition. Yeah, and it's the same. There is a few very good Canadian-owned publishing houses that do publish authors from international market region, and they do a great job, and I think they probably have interest, but again they probably compete with those big major publishers that do buy for the international. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Going back to our conversation on the situation, I guess the crisis really, as you mentioned, the roller coaster. Yeah. You went really down. Does that mean what? A reduction in 80%, 90% of the business in general?
Yeah, more than 80. In the past two first month, for the books, for the coffee shop, 0.
Oh yeah, of course.
And I'm not reopening for a while because it's too uneven. But yes, the 2 first months of the pandemic, I don't know if it was in your market, but it was, the bookstores closed. Yes, there was an online sales, but it was not as big as any, physical sales. The other thing that was really funny is we did sell more now online and everywhere, and people are buying physical books though. It's like the need of, and I think we are lucky in terms of cultural, cultural offering. We can remain offer books, that people that do theater or festival, they are much more in trouble than we are. We are lucky in terms that our product can be confined. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Here in Brazil, we had a huge increase on online sales for physical books. Yeah. And we have seen in many parts of the world, those who are follow, of course, that digital books are also increasing a lot. Yeah. It's a very nice time for audiobooks, for example, and even the ebooks. Did that happen in Canada? Is it increasing?
I cannot talk for the English market because I didn't get any sense from some of my fellow publishers, but here in my publishing house, we've seen a huge, tremendous increase in the ebook sales. But it was like a pike, and then it came back to physical books. But the French market compared to the English has that in a sense that people buy more physical books and buy more in bookstores than the English market where people buy online. We were accustomed to go and we say bouquiner, go in, waste time in the bookstore looking at all the books. So
investing time in bookstores.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You're completely right.
Right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, right.
cash though.
Well, but that is something. Maybe that's why bookstores are stronger in Canada than in other places.
Yeah.
I think you haven't had, at least yet, the phenomenon from the US where physical bookstores closing, big chains are closing, and then only online sales are the strongest. I think you don't have that kind of thing, right? You have
Yeah,
lots of
but
physical bookstores.
I think the English market of Canada do face that kind of challenge more than the French, and that's there's a one particular thing in the French Canadian market is we have a law where every school have to buy a book through a bookstore, so they are obligated to. So that saves the French market in terms of booksellers. We have a lot of very nice small independent booksellers. We have they about 40% of our sales is from independent booksellers, and then we have a chain and that do a lot of physical book sell, but they, so it's and Amazon is not, let's talk about the big I know English Canadian publishers do have, that Amazon is very, very important for them in terms of book sales, physical and ebooks. But us, it's not as big, and it's not that as important. It is important because every sale is, but I mean, it is the diversity of different ways of different places where we sell books actually is what makes our market healthier, I would say.
Nice. On our first Metabooks connection, I had the privilege to talk with Ed Navotka. I think you know him, the journalist from the US. No? Okay.
No.
He writes about the market in the US. He writes for Publishers Weekly. And he was...
Ed, yeah.
Ed. Yeah, you know him. 90% of the market knows him.
Yeah, everybody knows.
But he was talking about the new channels for sales now with the crisis or after the crisis. Okay. He said that he believes that what's going to happen from now on is that we are going to have a more variety of channels. Like, for example, the influencers, how they call the guys from social media, and then maybe you are going to be able to sell books on on a drugstore, on a supermarket, on a restaurant or whatever. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I completely agree. We have to rethink the way we promote books, and through different kind of promotion come different markets. I agree. Now we're trying to figure out in our house now how we're going to do book launch, and Facebook and Instagram and all those social, platform are becoming more and more important to lead people towards buying books. And yes, I think people will change the way they buy their product. And pharmacies are becoming important to us too, because that's where people, that's the only thing that with books, with the food chain, that's the only thing that remained open during all this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. We will see a change and a move towards diversity of where we sell books. I agree with that, and the way we'll influence people towards buying a book or not. Well, I am, for a fact, I am doing that in my house, sitting with different of my employees, trying to figure out how we're going to talk about books from this point on. We have to rethink it. We used to do a lot of events, and it's no longer going to be that possible for now. So, and we in Quebec, compared, the French Canadian market has about 9 different book fairs that is for the public around our province. All this is stopped, And it's very important for us to do the marketing and the sales of the books. So where are we going to go to sell those books? I have no clue. Are we going to travel to regions? And so that's a bit of an headache, but I think I agree with it will redefine the way we sell books.
Good.
But we're too much into it to know what's going to be, though. I think.
Yes, absolutely. Do you think that in that case that we need to learn and discover what to do? Do you think that smaller publishers and smaller booksellers have more, let's say, better chance to succeed than the big ones, because then they need to move the big name?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, when you're smaller, better, and quicker. The local buying was, I don't know if it's the same thing in Brazil, but local buying is very, very important here. Like people are now very aware that the neighbor that has a small shop is struggling, and they're gonna decide to go there first. And it's been promoted by the government a fair bit. So I think the booksellers, since we have a lot of independent small booksellers everywhere in the city and in the country, everywhere around, that in a sense will hopefully help them get people in. And I think it did, and it did. I think people are more and more aware of going local. So that for that matter, I think it will help.
You are not the first one to talk about, to use the word local. I think many people are using that, are looking into that right now. You said that, of course, we cannot know what's going to happen. So many changes happening right now. But in terms of the market and in terms of results of this year, how do you see the end of this year in terms of business? Something like more. Do you think you're going to be able to recover, or?
I don't think so.
No.
Well, I'm not planning to, because if I do, I think I'm going to. It's not. I think to be prudent it's one word, but it's. I don't know if it's the same thing in your market, but book sales, 60% and even more of the are sold in the last 3 months of the year before leading to Christmas. And with social distancing, we do sell a lot at books in big mega chain and as well that are still open. But when I remember going Christmas shopping, it's so dense. There's so many people. Are they going to do the Christmas shopping in the social distancing now? That we have. In a very, very slow day, there's lines everywhere in Montreal of people waiting to get in the shop. So in a sense, if our sales, 60% of our sales is done in 3 months, and now it's difficult to get people inside, I'm worried about that. It's like, are we going to hit a second wave during Christmas? And is it going to be, so that is a concern, because like I said, it's the most important months of the years for sales. So that, for me, tells me that there's no way we're going to recuperate what we've lost. We'll do good. I'm pretty sure that we're luckier than people that has a theater or has a, runs
Absolutely.
a festival and all that. We're much better than them, and I'm it's good that we can start again to sell books, but we don't know what lies ahead, and hopefully. Let's be hopeful that there will be some kind of end to all this. I don't know how to say it differently, but we don't know how it's going to happen either. So, the vaccine, is it going to be? We don't know. Yeah.
Let me share with you a little bit more wider, my more open question. Mariana Bueno is asking if. How do you think the world economic crisis is going to affect the market in general, and specifically the Canadian market, or if you think it's going to affect?
it's very scary. I think we're in the middle of, we were on the brink of a recession. I think we're there in some markets and all that. But it did bounce back a little bit. I don't know. In Canada, what's happening is there has been so much help for everyone that, we call it peace. It's everyone that lost their job, they do get money at the moment. So it's like, how you say that, giving air to, it's influated, like we don't know what's going to happen when that finishes, when people start getting, all that help. So I have no clue what the market and the world market will be. But obviously there's no way we're going to get out of this without any big, dent, and we're going to have to rebuild. Yeah. But, the history shows us that we always rebuild ourselves. We'll find a way out of all this, and we will, we will meet on at the end of that, and we'll find ways, and hopefully with everyone that we love. That's the scariest part, but
Yes. Amen to that. I really hope you are right. Our fingers are crossed for that. At the end, we come over all this.
Oh, yeah. Let's be hopeful.
Right?
Let's be hopeful.
Let's be hopeful and positive.
Yeah.
Right. In other conversations, another thing that came up many times was that we are now living 5 or 10 years in 5 or 10 weeks, especially in a market like the book market that is usually slow to change, move slowly to different ways. So how do you see this? Is this happening in your market? And do you think this is a trend for the future? Do you think we are going to be more agile, we are going to be faster for change? How was it?
Yeah, we're going to have to, we're going to have to be opening up to various ways of reacting. I was quite amazed how quick. I look at my team and everything, and how quick everybody, adapted to working from home. Quick, like it's not easy. It's not, but the adaptation was very fast, and it's everybody find ways, and we implement different things. So I guess this is what the future is all about. I think we need to think outside the box and rethink the way we do everything, and be prepared for anything. We have to be prepared. We don't know what is best and how things, and react according to what works, what doesn't. So trial and errors, that's probably what lies ahead. It's a lot of trials and errors here.
Yeah, I see that happening in many places right now. May I ask you to do some educated guess on the future of the book market and I would say just for the 2 or 3 years, because with the experience we had, we cannot plan too far.
Yeah. Well, sadly enough, I'm a bit old now, but I remember going to the Frankfurt Book Fair the year that the internet was taking over the world, that everybody was getting inside, getting connected to the internet, and it was becoming such a big thing. And I remember and being someplace on the Frankfurt Book Fair floor and hearing someone saying, and that's the end of the book. It was, announcing that is the end of the book. This is it. We're doomed. We're gonna die. I don't think so. And I believe books will remain for a long, long, long time. As we've seen, people are going back to physical book. Even every time there's a new kind of way of bringing content, there's a big craze. People adopts it, audiobooks or ebooks. Everybody adopts it, but there's always a percentage of people that go back to the physical book. And I believe that the book will remain. We will have to face many challenges, but we will maintain. This industry will remain there for a long time. That's what I believe. How we're going to evolve, I have no clue. that's another. And if as many publishers as we are now, we're going to maintain. I don't know. There's a survival thing that needs to be done to maintain, but I don't know. But there's no way I think that the book will die. In 10 years, people will still buy books and will still make books and will still read books.
Amen to that again. Really. No, I totally agree with you. I think that from time to time we have those apocalypse prophets that come and this is gonna end, this is the end, and this is this and that. But when we look into the history of our market, we see a lot. We see a lot of new things coming and going, and some of those stay and help. I would say that ebooks and audiobooks are helpful.
Yeah,
of course, they are useful. Of course, but the physical book is there, and it's nice also to have it in hand and read it by the bed or your special place. Sorry?
Yeah. And give it as a present to someone.
Give it as a present. Yes.
Pass it around.
Yes. Share. You read, and then after you read it with all your notes, then you give to someone, and that goes on. It's really nice. It's really nice.
One thing I'm wondering though, all this pandemic and all these people stuck alone at home and using Facebook and Instagram or TikTok or whatever to communicate. If it goes on for a long time, maybe we'll get out of that with people sick of social media and going back to physical meetings at the end of all this, and start to actually pick up the phone and talk normally to someone, or maybe I think it would be good to go back to the
maybe we go back to use phone to make phone calls, right?
Yes. And go to a restaurant and nobody is on Instagram while they're with someone. They will at least put aside their phone and actually enjoy this one-on-one meeting.
Yes, I've heard about some friends that are taking some time off right now. They're stopping because
too much
digital, too much screen for everyone.
And we are saying that on Facebook
though. Yeah, you're right. Last question. You tell me whatever you want or you can about this, but some questions are popping up here for me in parallel. As you mentioned in the beginning, you are the president of the foundation that organized Canada as a guest of honor in Frankfurt 2020. It's going to be a completely different book fair. It's going to be small just for Germany or Europe. We don't know what's going to happen. So can you say anything about Canada? No.
All I can say we've worked very hard. I can say we've accomplished a fair bit. We had more than 200 titles translated in German. I'm sorry, I don't have the number, but it's more than that, way more than that. And we had, our list of voters was selected. We had this brand all done. So I look at the path that we had, what we've accomplished in the past to get there, and we have to look at that and be very proud of ourselves. What lies in front of us? Well, I hope it's going to be something nice, and we're going to be able to celebrate the way we wanted it because everything was ready. But I don't know. I cannot tell you. I have no clue. And again, everybody, we all in our different businesses and different country trying to figure out what's next week and 2 weeks ahead of us. So I know there is a lot of talk happening. There's a lot of discussion happening and a lot of care from every parties on this project. And I think it's what will happen will be the best for everyone. That's all I can say. I don't really want to.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But
as soon as we know, we'll talk about it. We'll let everyone knows. But
of course. I guess you have been working on this for years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole team.
Yeah, we have a lot of people in Canada, great people in Canada, working so hard because it was, the Canadian government doesn't invest often in the cultural aspect of our country, and specifically international. It has been a long time. When Trudeau came, it was like the opportunity to have this reinvestment in the cultural and having an international event where everyone was included, French, English, Indigenous, the First Nation, everybody agreed on one thing. It's very, very rare. So for that, I hope we're going to be able to do this huge celebration and show the world what we're able to do. But, at the same time, I guess nobody can tell what this pandemic will end up being. We all there trying to figure out what's next. So we don't know.
Okay. Please let us know when you know.
Yeah.
And then we can share with our audience as well. So we are getting to the end of our conversation. Would you like to say something that I haven't asked you, Caroline?
You've asked. Oh no, I think I've talked too much. No, I think we probably tackled everything. I am very happy that you invited me for this talk. It's fantastic to be able to take a break and talk about where we are and where we're going. It's good. Thank you so much.
It was a very nice conversation, very enlightening conversation. As I mentioned before our live, Canada is a book market that's not very well known. So It's really nice to hear from you. Thank you very much for being with us. I know you had to make some arrangements up there to be able to be here. So
it's a pleasure.
Thanks for your effort. And we wish all the best for you and for the market. And really, really hope to see you soon, somewhere.
Yeah, me too.
London, Bologna, I don't
Anywhere.
know.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you to our audience.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.